I did actually find a new one under fractals, and this looks like the rectangles and it almost looks like the straight lines, but this is the pattern. And it's interesting because, let me hide the butterfly. These are 1.5 millimeter spacing, the distance, and the stitch lengths are about 1.5 to 1.7. But when I enter the distance, once I get into this fractal, it's really small. It's like 0.75 is the distance that I had to enter just to get a distance of like 1.5. So it makes you think whatever you put in, you're going to get twice that amount in this distance. 0.75 times 2 is 1.5. So I'll show you this. If you look down at the bottom, it's 1.5. And then the stitch lengths, again, are, if you look down, okay, so that one's like 2. That's pretty good. Okay, that one is like 1.6, 1.7. So, I mean, they're not bad. It's not a bad knockdown for this design. And I'll show you how I did it. Let me escape out of here. And I'll just hide it. So I clicked on the design, insert, effect, plate again. I'm sorry, plate and inflate. 5 mils, ignore cavity. This time we're going to fractal. So this is the one I use. And what's interesting is, even though it has these solid lines here, if you recall on the edges, it wasn't solid. It had these little lines, which was nice to see. This just looks more natural. So, but here you can see I put in a distance of 0.75. It rounded it to 0.8. And my stitch length was 2.0 is what I put in. And I did get that on some of them. And then some of them were like 1.6, 1.7, 1.5, something like that. So pretty close. So that's what I used. Now if I went with like a 1.0, my distance between these rows is actually 2.0. It'll be double that. So it was just interesting how this one works. So it's the Hilbert 2 curve under fractals. So I'll just show you it at the 1.0, the difference. So there it is with the 1.0. And it could still be considered a pretty good knockdown with that. And let me just hide that. So if I measure that, if you look down, it's 2.0. So even though I put in a 1.0, it's 2.0 distance. And then these stitches, like this one is 2.0. So they all kind of look like they're 2.0. This one might look a little longer. No, 2.0. So this one isn't bad either. It's not as tight as the 0.75 or 0.8. And I do like it. Now this has become my new favorite. There's just so much to discover. And I did put the the angle at 90 degrees, because otherwise it would have been, these would have been more vertical. So I guess it depends on, you know, which one you like. There's that one, and then that one's just a little bit tighter. Instead of it being 2.0, it's 1.5 mils. So, yeah, I do like this one now. So I'm going to try and add this to the video. And let's go ahead. I don't know which one to pick. I'll pick this dark one. And there it is. So it kind of reminds me of the straight lines. But remember, it is 2 layers. If I look up at the rectangles, I can't recall what the rectangles were. The distance. Let's measure that. 2.0. So then if I wanted them to match, I would go with the other one. Let's see, we hit this one. And we'll make this one. This is the 2.0 one. Just make that the dark one. So now they kind of look like they match. And it's interesting, they're the same color, but this one looks lighter. Almost as if it's not as heavy, not as dense. Just because there's not any overlap. With these, there's a lot of overlap. With the rectangles, there's a lot more overlap. So that was really a great discovery. There's so many choices, so you could really get lost. For this one, what's the stitch count? So it's 3660. So it's in the 3000s. The other one, this one up here, I have it hidden. This was the rectangles. 5467. Was this the rectangles? Let me make sure. Yeah, it was. Oh, I'm thinking of the stipple was 3000. So this is a good, this new one here is a real good competition for the stipple. They're both in the 3000s. And the stipple, if you recall, you kind of have to have studio just to get those stitch lengths to be not so tiny. Whereas this one, you only need editor. So it's kind of nice and it's quick. The other fractal that I really do kind of like is this one here, and it's the Peano Gosper curve. And the reason I like it is because it reminds me of the stipple after I had to do so much work on the stipple to get it to, you know, have a reasonable stitch length and whatnot. It just looks like it with the points here, and the only difference is this is more consistent in the pattern, and that may appeal to you. And all the stitches are pretty much the same length and so on. And, you know, the ends are jagged, which is nice. It still looks natural. So I'll show you how I got that one. I'll just get rid of this. Oops, hit the select button. So I'll click on the butterfly and then again insert effect, plate 5 mils, ignore cavity, this time fractal again, and here it is here, Peano, Gosper, curve. It's kind of lower down in the list. And you look at it and you wouldn't think that it would be okay because I don't know, you're just not sure. It doesn't have jagged edges. It has one there and there, but I just didn't think it would work, and it turns out it's really pretty good. So my distance on the one I just showed was 1 mil, so 1.0. Angle, I've just been leaving it at 90. I'm not sure if that's the default or not, but the stitch length I'll leave at 2. By the way, the crook means curves, so it'll give you curves, but remember with curves means that you'll have more stitch points in that small curve, and that may not be desirable for your knockdown. You want it to be efficient and have just enough stitch points to make it sturdy and so on. So we'll not use that. So we'll click OK, and there it is. And if I click on it, you'll see that the stitch count is 4496, whereas my stipple was like 3000 after I fixed it in Studio. That was on a previous video. But remember, that was 1 layer of stitching. This is 2 layers of stitching, and it's 4496 because it's kind of branched or what have you. So it's really kind of nice. So I would say between the the 2 fractals here, the stipple on the previous video, and the rectangles, those are my favorites. But if I had to narrow it down even further, it would probably be these 2 and the stipple. I still like the stipple just because it's so erratic. But so let's go ahead and turn this. And there it is. It's very pretty. It just reminds me of the stipple. So if I had to add the stipple to this video, let's see. I will go into quilt, stipple. Okay, so 1.5. Like I was saying before, these don't even matter because we inflated it 5 on the previous screen. So if you put zeros here, it doesn't even matter what you put here. It seems like the inflate overrides everything. And I'll keep the stitch length high, even though it's going to have some small stitches because my distance is so small, so you can't get around that. That's why it's almost better just using that last one I just did, because it's this stipple after I get done fixing it is going to look just like that Peano Gosper curve. And this takes just, a few minutes longer to fix it and everything. So at any rate, that's the settings, 1.5, 0, 4.5, random. And there it is. And again, it's got a lot of teeny tiny stitches and little ones here. We want to try to get rid of those. So I'll go ahead and I'll just Control C, Control V, turn this one gold. Okay. Right click, edit stitch file in Studio. Select it, bring it into view, and convert manual to connection, convert connection to outline. We'll go in and I think I gave it like 1.5 to 2.0. Apply, but if you look at it, if I go into 3D, you still have a short stitch there and short stitches there. So you still have some short stitches. So that's when I did transform reduce nodes number, because remember, if I hit edit, you see, you know, a lot of nodes. And see how we got 2 nodes there, 2 nodes there? Well, that's why you have those short stitches there. But if I go into transform reduce nodes number and bring it up to the simplicity of 7, that reduces the nodes when you bring the number up higher. You see it just kind of put it back, you know, round. It made everything simpler basically. So if I hit edit now, you don't see those double nodes, you just see corners. So that's what we do, those 2 things. So we converted the manual to an outline, changed the stitch length, and did the transform reduce nodes number. And so we'll save that. Step butterfly 2, just so you have it saved. And so then we'll just compile and put it into editor. I'll just cancel, and there it is down here. We brought it back in, so you can see it's only got 3,000 stitches. So, and it's only 1 layer, so it's kind of nice. So let's see, we'll put it 4. This was the original stipple, and that was 5,500 stitches, 5,400, whereas this one is 3,000 after we took it into Studio. So we'd get rid of this one and magnify, we have to hit that. And so we'll delete this one and insert the 4 and set identical. And there you go. So that's the stipple, 3,000 stitches. And then that's the Peano Gosper curve, that one. And remember, that's 4,500 stitches. And then this one is the Hilbert 2 curve, that one that I like. And that one is 3660. So that's kind of nice. That's very close to the stipple. And that's it. So those 3 would be my favorites, I would say, so far. Probably discover some more that I like, but, and remember this one, the Hilbert 2 curve, that reminds me of straight lines. You don't need Studio for it, it's really quick. But you may not like the straight lines, you may like the stipple. And then the Peano Gosper curve reminds me of the stipple. you only need editor for that, but it's got a little bit more stitches, 4,500 as opposed to 3,000 on the Stipple. It's more consistent looking, but when it's the same fabric color, it doesn't look too much different than the Stipple. So there you go. It's quite a bit of discovery. All right then. We'll see you next time.